welcome back to my channel, or if you're new here, welcome to my channel. My name is Sav, and today we're talking all things meal prepping, fitness, and weight loss. Excuse the no makeup, hair falling out of my hat look. I just got back from the gym, so. For those of you who don't know, I'm coming to the end of my college career this upcoming May, and I sort of no longer have the excuse that I'm eating like a broke college student, and sort of no excuse for how unhealthy I've been eating over the past 2 to 3 years. This past year alone, I've been eating out like 5+ times a week. I live off of like pasta and an all-carb diet. I drink Starbucks like every day, and it's just created this like really unhealthy lifestyle where I feel sluggish all the time, and I just don't feel so like great about my body right now. In combination with like zero exercise, this has caused me to put on a little bit of weight, as you can imagine, since I started college, which is totally normal. But I'm at the point where I'm ready to get back into shape and feel good about my body and my health overall again. When I came back to Phoenix last month to start my final semester at ASU, I decided that it was finally time to stop being lazy, start caring about what I'm putting in my body, and start valuing my health. And that's what I've been doing for the past 2.5 weeks or so. One of the big excuses that I have always made is that I don't have time to cook, right? I don't have time. I'm a really busy student. I take over a full course load. I have multiple jobs, and I just don't have time to cook every week, right? So that's why I'm always going out and eating out and grabbing fast food. And that hasn't really changed. I'm still extremely busy. My schedule is actually pretty much the same. But the difference now is that I take the time and I make the time to meal prep at the beginning of the week so that I can set myself up for success later down the road when I am so busy. This typically means I grocery shop on Friday, and then I either prepare my food on Saturday or Sunday whenever I get a free 2 to 3 hours, because that's really all I need. And I know that on most weekends I would just be using that time to watch TV or like take a nap or something, which granted I'm not getting as much rest as I used to, but I'm eating a lot better because I'm setting myself up for success. For some background, I participate in what's called intermittent fasting, and that basically means that for a portion of the day/night I fast, and then I only eat within a certain window. So I follow the 16-8 guideline, which means for 16 hours I fast, and then for 8 hours I eat. So between noon and 8 p.m., that is the only time that I can eat or drink anything. If I'm gonna be like going out or something, that's gonna be the only time that I can do that. And then after 8 o'clock until the following day at noon, I completely fast and I only drink water, coffee, and tea. There are a ton of videos on YouTube about intermittent fasting and how it can help regulate your blood sugar and help you to lose weight quicker in a healthy and sustainable way. For someone like me who doesn't really like eating breakfast, like I am just not a breakfast person whatsoever, I really enjoy intermittent fasting because I don't feel the pressure to eat in the morning. And usually when I eat breakfast, I kind of feel like sluggish and sick all day, and so I just avoid that altogether. And it also helps me to keep my calorie intake rather low because I am only eating 2, maybe 3 meals a day. I'll link a few of my favorite videos in the down bar if you're interested in learning a little bit more about intermittent fasting. It is a really sustainable way to lose weight, and I feel so much better. Any video that you watch about intermittent fasting, they'll talk about how it just regulates your body better, you're less bloated, you feel more like energetic when you work out. That's like a big one for me. And so intermittent fasting is 100% a diet that I'm gonna stick with probably after I get through my weight loss and fitness journey. So because I intermittent fast, that means I only really eat lunch and dinner and possibly a few snacks in between, but I'm not a huge snacker. So for me, it's just 2 big meals a day. So that means that when I meal prep, I basically estimate I need to make between 10 and 12 meals a week, because I typically leave 1 day a week where I might eat out, or I might let myself eat something that, you know, maybe I didn't prep ahead of time. I keep soups in my cabinet or extra little snacks that I can have if I am home, basically, and I have time to cook, because sometimes I do. If you're anything like me, I'm sorry, because I am 100% the type of person who, if I don't have food prepared and ready to eat, I will go out. Like I live, literally, I can look at, there's a Cane's right there. It's smarter financially for me to make meals for myself at the beginning of the week, you know, so I always have them and I don't have to spend as much money, and I'm eating healthier. So overall, meal prepping is a great solution if you are trying to lose weight, but you're not quite sure how to regulate your diet, or you're not quite sure how to like adjust your diet. So if you're also on a weight loss journey or a fitness journey and you need some easy, quick meal prep ideas, then this is totally the video for you. The 5 meals that I'm going to demonstrate in this video are filling, nutritious, they're easy to make. I mean, they're not too like I don't know, radical or whatever. You can do all of these in a matter of a few hours, and the process that I'm going to show them to you is exactly how you should follow it, and you can do them in a very quick amount of time. 2 of the recipes that I'm gonna make today were completely new for me as well. I'd never made them before, and they both turned out absolutely delicious. But I am like really grateful that they were so easy, because I can demonstrate to you guys just literally how simple it was for me to do them. All of the ingredients as well as the caloric information are going to be listed below so that you guys can recreate these recipes and know exactly what you're getting when you make these bowls. And of course you can adjust the sizes or however many, the portions I should say of what you want to put in your meals to adjust for what you're trying to eat per day. All of the meals that I'm going to show you are under or just over 400 calories, and that makes for a really, really good portion size. And then 2 of the salads that I'm going to show are actually like really low calorie, 250, 300, sometimes a little bit lower depending on how much dressing you put in. If you try out any of these recipes and you love them, please let me know. And if you have any other recommendations for anybody who is watching this video and looking for more meal prep guides, please leave them in the comments, because we're all just trying to help each other out as we get healthy in 2018. And as one last reminder, I am not a nutritionist or a health coach in any way, so take everything I say with a grain of salt and always do what feels right for your body. Do what makes you feel full and, energized for the day, what feels nutritious to you, because you know your body best and it's important to do what's right for you. And with that, it's time to jump into the video.
All right, here we go. First step is to gather all your utensils. This isn't everything I'll use in the video, but it is most of it. I've got my bowls and jars for the food, giant bowls to hold all the pre and post prep food, and then some cutting boards, knives, and tongs. The first thing we're going to prepare today is our vegetables. Vegetables are a key component of my diet, and I eat them with almost every meal because I am a big veggie lover. I get fresh vegetables every week, and this usually consists of 4 to 6 peppers, 2 to 3 stalks of broccoli, 1 red onion, kale, cauliflower, and of course can't forget zucchini. First step here is going to be to wash all your produce. This is super important because, as gross as it is, you have no idea who's touched your produce in the grocery store, and it's just hygienic to wash it before you prepare it. Ignore all of the meat thawing in my sink. The first thing I'm cutting up here is my broccoli, and I'm just cutting off the thick stem of it and cutting up the little flores, which is just the sort of fanny part at the top. I keep this giant bowl next to me to hold all of the veggies I'm gonna cut up, and I just toss them in there when I'm done. And this is gonna get really full really fast. Next, we're gonna go in on the peppers. In the giant bowl, I add red, yellow, green, and orange peppers. I first remove the stems, and then I wash out the seeds from inside, and then I slice the peppers into long slivers and toss them in the bowl. So these are what the little slivers should look like. With the red pepper, as you'll see here, I slice some into slivers and then some into smaller squares, and that's because I'm setting the squares aside for the taco bowls I'm going to make later, so I have a separate bowl off screen for that. Then it is time for the waterworks. It's time to cut up our onions. The best way I found to do this is to slice the onion in half from the top, peel each layer off, and then cut each layer into small squares. Again, like with the red pepper, you'll see I cut slightly smaller pieces and put them aside for the taco bowl for later, but the rest of the onions I just toss in the big bowl. And then last but not least, I prepare my kale. I just take 1 stem and pull the leaves off and then rip them into smaller bite-sized pieces for a salad that we're going to make in a few minutes, and I put that just into a smaller bowl and set it off to the side for a little bit. Also, don't mind my face in the bottom corner. My boyfriend was sitting behind the camera watching my newest video, and we didn't realize that it was in frame. Now that our veggies are all cut up, it's time to roast them. Sorry this shot's a little blurry, but you're gonna preheat the oven to 425 degrees. I usually do this right before I season the vegetables so that while the oven is heating up, we can just do that. As you can see, this creates a huge bowl of vegetables, so I split it into 2 different trays for the oven. I separate the veggies into 2 bowls to season them. And then I'm gonna go ahead and add oil, pepper, and garlic powder. And then using those tongs that I set out earlier, I'm going to mix the bowl around to make sure that they're all really well covered and seasoned. Take your veggies and spread them out across the baking tray, making sure to put aluminum foil down first for an easy cleanup. We're going to be using these trays for 6 to 7 different items, and it would be too much of a hassle to clean them off completely each time. So when you're done, your veggies should lay flat and even so that they roast evenly, and then you're just going to take those, pop them in the oven for about 22 minutes. If you like your veggies more soft, you can add more oil, and if you like them more roasted, you would just cook them a bit longer. If you're only making one tray, you probably only need to pop them in for about 17 minutes. When the veggies are all done, I scoop them all back into the giant veggie bowl they were in earlier, and I set them aside covered in saran wrap until I'm ready to start putting the meals together. Veggies will go in almost every single meal that I make for the week, and so they're very important. Next thing you should make is your rice, because this typically takes a little longer, but also because I use this ingredient in almost every meal I make and I need it ready ahead of time. Brown rice is a healthy carb and it truly fills me up. I don't have a rice cooker yet, but if you do, then this step would be much quicker for you. I usually have to cook mine on the stove, which means for every cup of rice you need 1.5 cups of water. I made 3 cups of uncooked rice, so I measured out 4.5 cups of water. Bring your rice to a boil on the stove, and then once that's boiling, you'll place the lid on it and let it simmer on a low heat for 45 minutes, and that's basically it. Next, we are gonna prepare some chicken. Chicken is a great lean protein option, and not to brag on myself, but I make some bomb chicken. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees and then take as many chicken breasts as you need for 4 meal preps. I knew I was also making a salad that would need chicken, so I used 4 chicken breasts, and I decided that 3/4 of each breast would go into each meal. I'm weird about touching raw meat, so I put my chicken into one of my giant bowls and season it using olive oil, pepper, and garlic powder. Sometimes I add Italian seasoning, but I only had a little and I knew I would need it later, so I just stuck with these 3. Take your tongs and make sure each breast gets fully covered in each seasoning, and then place them on individual foil sheets for each breast. P.S. Make sure you're washing your tongs between use to make sure that you're not contaminating your other food. The reason I wrap each breast in its own foil is because it really bakes it in the oven while maintaining all its moisture, and it comes out so fresh and fluffy, you'll see. Again, make sure you have foil on the bottom of your tray, then pop those in the oven. I set my timer at an hour, but I underestimated a bit and had to put them back in, so I would recommend that with this many chicken breasts, you do about 70 minutes. And while the chicken is baking, it's time to make some salads. I'm a huge salad lover, so this is one of my favorites to make, and all you'll need is 2 larger mason jars with lids. Grab your kale and start packing 1 jar with about 2 cups worth, pushing it down occasionally to make it compact in the jar. Fill the other jar with romaine or a romaine spring mix like I did for a variety in your greens so that you don't get bored. I chopped up some baby tomatoes off camera and I just added those to my kale salad. Fair warning, because these tomatoes are more exposed in halves than they would be in whole, the salad won't stay fresh as long, so I recommend eating this one early in the week. Next, take a small handful of black beans and a small handful of corn. I just go ahead and drain these both in my sink before I do them so that they're not too liquidy. And then you'll add that to your main salad, pop them in the fridge until their protein is ready to top them off. And now that our chicken is done, we're gonna pull those babies out of the oven and check 1 chicken breast out of the 4 to make sure that it is cooked thoroughly. I noticed that I had cooked 1 more chicken breast than usual, and so I actually needed some more time for my chicken breast, and that's why I said earlier that I'd recommend doing 70 minutes instead of the 60 minutes that I showed on my timer. Then you will move all of them over to a cutting board so that your baking trays are free once again for the next items. And you're going to cut all of your breasts into bite-sized chunks. It doesn't have to be too specific on the size. Just make sure you're checking each breast to make sure it's cooked thoroughly. But as you can see, it comes out so fresh and moist and easy to cut, and I just love baking chicken in the oven. Now it is time to put together our first 4 meals. I laid out 4 bowls, as you can see, and in each bowl I'm adding a 1/2 cup of brown rice, a whole cup of roasted vegetables, and as you'll see here, I'm not too particular about getting the measurements just right because I love vegetables and I don't think it matters that much to be too precise. And then a small handful of chicken. This evens out to about 5 to 6 chunks per bowl, with 5 to 6 set aside for one of the salads that I mentioned earlier. And that's actually it for this bowl. This one can be super plain, so sometimes I add a Southwest Chipotle drizzle before I reheat them for extra flavor, and it pairs really well. Now that we have chicken for one of our jar salads, we can wrap this one up by tossing them on top and finishing it with that dressing I just mentioned, and boom, we have a basic Southwest salad. You can opt to add shredded carrots, tomatoes, or avocado as you please, but I like to keep my salads fairly basic on days when I'm kind of feeling like having a smaller meal. Now that our oven is free, it's time to fill it up again. First, preheat it to 425 degrees. We're going to prepare some shrimp to finish off our other salad and to get a variety in our protein options throughout the week. Drain half the bag in the sink. I did the whole because I was also using the shrimp in a dinner for my boyfriend and I that night, but you really only need half for the salad. Lay the shrimp out evenly on your pan on foil like always, and are you getting the gist about foil yet? Add olive oil, pepper, and a hefty amount of garlic powder, as the point is to have a really seasoned shrimp at the end of this. Set those on the stove for a minute as you prepare the next item, which will go in the oven at the same time. And it's sweet potato time. Take 1 or 2 sweet potatoes, I used 2 for this particular recipe, and slice them into little circles. Warning, this is much harder than it looks, and I recommend using a big knife, as you'll see I had to switch to. After you've sliced the potato, dice it into smaller chunks. If you care about the skin of the potato, just skin it first before cutting it, but I don't mind the skin and I know it has extra protein, so I just leave it. Toss your chunks into a giant bowl, and then you're going to add olive oil and mix that around. Make sure that it's really covering all of the sweet potatoes so that they roast properly. And then you're going to add a little bit of rosemary and a little bit of Italian seasoning. See, I told you that we would need that later. Mix that around really well, and then lay the chunks on a tray. Again, taking a knife or some other utensil to make sure that they're all laid flat and that they cook evenly. Pop the shrimp on the lower rack and the potatoes on the upper rack, and set the timer for 10 minutes. This timer is for the shrimp alone, since the potatoes will need to cook for an additional 30 minutes to get soft, but it saves a little bit of time just to cook them together. After that 10 minutes, you'll have beautiful roasted garlic shrimp, and you can take about a half of a cup's worth, maybe a little more, a little less, depending on how much you like shrimp, and then you'll just toss them on top of the kale salad that we made earlier. You're gonna wanna push it all down to make it more compact, and then you add a Caesar vinaigrette as your dressing, and boom, you've got a kale Caesar salad with garlic shrimp. And we're already 3 meals down, so way to go for us. While your sweet potatoes are still baking, you can start to prepare the protein for your next meal, which in this case is salmon. I'm a huge salmon lover because it's so good and super filling, and it's great protein aside from chicken. So I am making 3 salmon bowls, which means I thawed 3 salmon fillets and then I tossed them in a bowl where I added olive oil, rosemary, and Italian seasoning, just like with the sweet potatoes. Mix that around, and then just like the chicken, lay each fillet on its own foil and wrap it up tight before sticking it on a tray to bake. Luckily, salmon bakes at the same temperature as the potatoes, so you'll simply swap them out once the potatoes are done, and then let your potatoes cool while you bake the salmon for 15 minutes. Once the salmon is done, you'll get your 3 bowls ready and fill them with half a cup of brown rice, half a cup of veggies, 3/4 of a cup of sweet potatoes. I just fill up my half cup measurement and then add a couple extra chunks afterward. And then, although I forgot to show this on camera, you'll lay 1 fillet per bowl on top of it all. You may have leftover veggies or potatoes, no biggie, just put them in a jar to snack on throughout the week, and boom, we have our salmon and sweet potato bowls. Moving right along, we're gonna make some turkey taco bowls. I used my boyfriend as my lovely assistant for this one because meat grosses me out, so thank you, Sean. We took half a tube of 93% lean ground turkey and tossed it in a skillet with a little olive oil and pepper, and started to cook it until it browned and no pink showed through. Once it was 90% cooked through, we added those peppers and onions we set aside earlier and some taco seasoning and mixed them all together until the turkey was thoroughly browned. Once that was cooked all the way through, we let it sit for a minute while we sliced up an avocado, and then we were ready to build our taco bowls. With the avocado, just go ahead and cut it in half and then take the little nut out in the middle and slice the avocado halves in half again. So taking a half a cup of rice in each bowl, I added a quarter cup of black beans as well, a quarter cup of corn, and then half a cup of our turkey mix to each bowl. Finish it off with a quarter of the avocado that you just cut up in each bowl on top. As you can see, I only thought I was going to make 3 bowls, but I had enough for 4, so I just repeated those steps and voila, turkey taco bowls. And that is actually it for this video. Thank you guys again for tuning in. I hope that this has helped you in some way as we all get healthy this year, and I will see you in my next video.